And the presidency, and it is basically a description of what is the current state of Israel, how has it been negatively affected by the Obama administration, and how has the media played a role in putting this shift between America and Israel. So my research question is, how has the Obama administration, alongside the media, changed the dynamic and perception between Israel and the United States? Uh, this basically is going to be organized into a few subtopics, which I'll hit later on. But my thesis is, if Israel, the only Jewish state to exist, is reliant on its ally, the United States, for survival in the Middle East, then the leader of the United States should have an unbreakable allegiance to Israel and a responsibility to protect the nation from future harm and to express U.S. power in the Middle East. Additionally, new forms of media on the internet have reached Americans and falsely propagandized photos and stories to further a specific agenda. So, my thesis statement basically explains how Israel is reliant on America for uh, aid, which we'll hit in the next slide. But America is also reliant on Israel for their stake in the Middle East and their presence. Benefits. So many argue that the United States' relationship with Israel is both beneficial to Israel and the United States. Israel benefits from receiving economic and military aid, while the United States maintains a strong presence in the Middle East, which is necessary if we want to maintain our superpower status of the world. So Obama and Netanyahu. So I'm touching on this because my first one of my research topics is, what is the current state of the U.S. and Israel, and a lot of it has to do with Obama and Netanyahu's relationship. Um, their relationship came under immense strain during Netanyahu's second administration and Obama's presidency. After he took office, Barack Obama made achieving a peace deal between Israel and Palestine a major goal, but the means of getting to the peace deal was not necessarily as pro-Israel as many people would have liked. He has made it clear that he is going to work with the Palestinian people at a much greater length than previous American presidents. So my first topic question is, what is the current state of U.S. and Israel relations? A little intro and background is, Israel and the United States relations are an extremely important factor in the U.S. foreign policy within the Middle East. There is no treaty between the nations because they share the same values. They're both democracies, um, and aid is given to Israel from the U.S. and Israel is a very strong ally to the United States. Over time, the relationships have shifted, and there is a lot of tension between Obama and Netanyahu, which rubs off into the United States and Israel, the people. So my second topic is, what role has President Obama played in the shifting of American and Israeli relations? So part of my research is I found a scholarly journal written by Sharansky and Dermer, who argue that the United States and Europe cannot help open up the fierce societies of the Middle East if they give in to the warped and anti-Semitic claims that they make about Israel, a fellow Western country. So basically, they're saying that there's a test, and anti-Semitism is not really about against the Jewish people anymore. This new wave of it is against the state of Israel, and this 3D test, the three words with the first letter D, can tell you if statements or ideas or if someone is anti-Semitic towards the state of Israel. And they apply this test to Obama. The first word is demonization. The Obama administration has engaged not in a hard demonization, but in a soft one through falsely portraying Israel as the guilty party in the administration's failed quest to create a Palestinian state. In 2009, the Washington Post interviewed a Palestinian Authority president, Mohammed Abbas, and he said that he was confident that the peace process under Obama would consist entirely of the United States extracting of concessions from Israel. So he is saying that for there to be peace under Obama, America would have to stop aiding Israel altogether. Uh, Another statement made actually recently in the past 2 weeks by Bernie Sanders was he committed blood libel by inflating the number of deaths in Gaza by about 10%. No, by about 100%. He said 10,000 people died when that is not true at all. It was 1,000. It was around the 1,000 mark. But this is an example of demonization when people make statements to further uh, propel their political agenda or to uh, put their ideas out there in a way and demonize a region or a state, in that matter, of Israel. Delegitimizing statements. Delegitimization is the second D in this test, and it basically has to do with the delegitimization of the actual state of Israel itself. Um, it basically Obama and his administration, from Hillary Clinton to John Kerry, have repeatedly delegitimized Israel, and they've taken a silent stand on issues when it comes to settlements, and they've told Israel that their plans to work with Palestine and create borders that are a fair trade-off between the two of them are ignored. Israel has offered over decades, 6 decades, 7 or more decades, different opportunities for the Palestinian government to come and make um, deals, and Israel's offered up once 90% of what Palestine wanted, and they just never signed it. So that's deal, and no one ever talks about that. Uh, Obama once said that the only way for Israel to endure and thrive as a Jewish and democratic state is through the realization of an independent and viable Palestine. But the issue in that illegitimate statement is that Palestine is the one that's responsible for noticing themselves. Israel has offered it for the past 25 years. They've shown that they're more than willing to work with the Palestinians, but double standard. And the third D is the double standard. And during Israel's conflict with Hamas last summer, Obama condemned Israel greatly. But in other instances, such as a military campaign in Yemen where hundreds and hundreds and even thousands of civilians and children were killed, Obama said nothing. But he spoke a lot about Israel and Gaza and the deaths in Gaza and the death toll in Gaza. So my third topic is, how has the Iran deal affected Israel? The Iran deal is an executive agreement, which means that the only person that has to sign it is the president. So this is a one-on-one deal with Obama and Iran. And that makes it even more personal towards Israel because the Iran Supreme Leader Ayatollah Ali Khamenei suggested a few days before the voting on the Iran deal that in 25 years Israel would cease to exist. And Obama still went through with this deal. And the deal basically lifts sanctions in Iran, which brings in about $150 billion worth of cash flow to Iran for their promise, quote, promise, to not build nuclear weapons. And it's a promise. So there's nothing they can do except hope that Iran follows through. And there have been, stories that they're not following through. And it is turning out to be one of the worst executive agreements in American history. My fourth topic is, how has the media changed the perception of Israel and the entire Middle East? Well, the media has grown from television and mainstream media to social media, and in these different platforms, you have, for example, in social media, uncensored, immediate information. Someone that's maybe in the Middle East or someone that just wants to tweet their ideas are right there, and it is instant and it is uncensored, and through Facebook, Twitter, blogs, and that has become a very big part of the Palestinian-Israeli conflict because it is a bipartisan issue, believe it or not, and when you have mainstream media such as Fox News and CNN, which take sides, you can find every side of the spectrum, every aspect of this, Israeli United States issue on the internet. And here's a clip on CNN. I don't know how to make it play in my video, but I put the link up here, and I'll also email you the link. But generally, basically what happens is Ben Shapiro, who is on the left, he is a Harvard Law student that argues that CNN has been reporting the death tolls of Israel and Gaza and Hamas without justifying the facts or giving any justification. They are reporting that there are more deaths on the Palestinian side, but they're not saying why. And the reason why is that Hamas is using their people as human shields, and he points it out, and she ends up having to say, yes, well, this is the reason why, and she broke, and she was wrong. Well, she wasn't wrong. She was reporting facts without any background information, which is a propaganda tactic to turn people against Israel. And I just explained that. And my next topic is, still about how has the media changed it. And you see on Twitter, here's examples of, people tweeting about how they feel. CNN reporters even using their own, calling Israeli scum. And this is just the way it is. And this is a form of uncensored reporting. My fifth topic is how effective is propaganda in persuading the views of the people. So, how effective is the action? How effective is the information that is leaked to the public, or the information that is given to the public in regards to their views of where they stand on issues such as Israel and Palestine, and their views of Israel in general? Do we support them? Do we not? Here's a poll by Gallup, a Gallup poll. And Republicans seem to twice as much, over 2 times as much, agree with Israel, whereas Democrats don't. This seems to be a partisan issue, and it has reached the point where it is a political problem. Even in the 2016 presidential election, which I'll be discussing in my paper, the AIPAC conference, where all the presidential candidates except Bernie Sanders gave a speech on their thoughts on Israel and where they stand, was one of the most important days, and speeches of the election so far. And it is a very polarizing issue. A lot of presidential candidates seem to just justify Israel, whereas Bernie Sanders doesn't, and he happens to be the Jewish one. But that is, here's my works cited. That is it so far for my oral presentation. I have about 7 literature reviews, and I'll be doing more, but that's it.